And so we're going to keep it moving. There'll be more announcements along the way. But our next adult teller is Bill, is it Halsema? Halsema. Bill Halsema. Come on up.
Good evening. I'm Bill Halsema, and this is not only my first time to attend this, it's my first time to speak at this. Oops. Somewhere near. At any rate, I thought I'd tell you a little about one of my favorite days of my whole life. It is a very special day that occurred when I was a teenager back in 1967. It was a different time period back then. There were young people, a little older than me, who were running off to California, becoming free from their families, etc. So they thought. They called themselves flower children, and later they were called hippies or worse. And so on this day, a microbus, VW microbus load of them, came riding through the community. And just so happens, near my aunt and uncle's house, there was a wayside. It wasn't really a rest stop. It was just a place you pulled off the road, and it had a couple picnic tables and a couple of outhouses, you know, men's and women's. And they pulled in, pulled out a picnic lunch. One of them pulled out an easel and some paints, crawled through the barbed wire fence, and went out in the pasture and started painting the woods and the pasture and the cows. And they were beautiful in the day glow paints. And about that time, my aunt noticed that they were there, and that pasture was theirs. Came out of the house with a vengeance. She was not known to be a gentlewoman. She pulled out a shotgun and blew off a shot in the air. Boom! She said, "You lazy, dirty, no good scoundrels, get off my land! Take your stuff and get!" They scrambled around, didn't know what to do, and they threw everything they could back in the van, and off they went. So she went back in the house, thought that was that. But also going on that day, in our town we had a Carnegie Library. Some of the younger people I might explain. This is before Alexa, before Google, before computers. We had things called libraries where they had books. So, yeah. So at any rate, this Carnegie Library was called that because a generous gentleman who was an industrialist had given money to build the library many years ago. To be exact, it was the 75th anniversary of the library that day, or the next day. And so they planned a big ceremony, and they had people coming into town for a book signing. It was a Sherlock Holmes book, but of course Sherlock Holmes is a made-up person. But they had actors come in to play Sherlock and Watson, and they came and had a book signing that evening. And things were going lovely, and hundreds of people came to see what was going on. When all of a sudden, in the middle of the process, the sheriff's radio crackles. Sheriff, this is Deputy Watson. We're out here on North Highway 53. We've got a sighting of a UFO. The sheriff said, "What? What are you talking about?" No, Sheriff, I see it. He looked around, ran out of the building, got in his car, screamed off down the road. Well, everybody in the building thought, oh my gosh, what if it's real? So they all ran out of the building too. They got there and stared off into the pasture at the roadside. And there was huge orbs floating up out of the field. And everybody stood back in awe. And the fellow playing Watson said, well, Holmes, what is this? And Holmes said, why? This is phosphorescent bovine flesh. And Watson said, what? Whatever do you mean? He looked at him and said, you old fool, it's fluorescent cow farts. And about that time, one of the orbs floated right over Watson and popped and drenched him in a day-glow green thing that smelled like asparagus and ditch water. He had to clean up before he could go to the process the next day. Thank you.
I realized earlier I was talking about or inviting you all to consider volunteering with storytelling arts, and I didn't tell you how you can do that. If you are interested in volunteering, our volunteer coordinator is feeding ice cream to little JoJo over there. She's waving her hand. If you think volunteering for storytelling arts sounds like something fun that you'd like to do, please take a moment at some point this evening and see Miss Samantha. We call her Sam. One of the other things that Storytelling Arts does is we have an outreach program it's for youth through the YMCA, and that is organization, or I'm sorry, that's an opportunity for them to go into the YMCA and teach youth how to tell stories. Another outreach that they do is they are at a school on the east side that I happen to be the principal of, and so I love it. Our kids get to come they come out once a month, or twice a month on Tuesdays or Thursdays, and they teach kids the art of storytelling. They give them opportunities to tell stories, and it really is a pleasure to see how they get to kind of grow and come into their own. A lot of times, we've seen people be shy when they come to the mic, but after, say, a semester or so, they can't wait to get to the mic. And so it's all about that development and self-esteem and all of that. That was the thing. We got more announcements, but before we get to those, Jim Jones. All right.
I'm getting old, so I'm sitting down. When I was a bit younger, I used to love to visit my Uncle Russ. He lived down in southern Indiana, a little place. When I'd visit, I looked forward to the fact he'd often entertain me with a story or two about one of his neighbors. The fellow's name was Ezra Harbaugh. Now, the folks that knew Ezra referred to him as Krusty Harbaugh. One of my visits, Uncle Russ said, Krusty's kind of fell on some hard times, so I've been kind of helping him out, bringing him with some supplies and food once in a while. So I'm headed down there today, and would you like to join me? Come along and ride with me. Well, I'd never met Krusty, but I've heard stories. He was one of these fellows that just barely was able to eke out a living. The only income he had was selling a couple of products that he made from this little farm that he had, sell them to the local folks. His products were chewing tobacco and moonshine. Now, the problem he was having financially was that he over-consumed his inventory and didn't have a lot left to sell. Well, we took off to go see Krusty to take him his supplies. And on the way over, Uncle Russ said, "Now I gotta warn you, if Krusty's been into his moonshine, he's got kind of a loose temper. So you gotta be really careful about what you say or do and not offend him, because we don't want to set him off." So we got there and Krusty was sitting out on the front porch, old beat-up rocking chair. And the first thing we noticed when we got up to the porch was there was a half-empty jar of moonshine. And old Krusty's eyes were a little glazed over. He had a big old chaw of his homegrown tobacco bulging in his cheek. And before we could say a word, he turned his head and he let fly with a great big old gob of tobacco spit. Didn't even get over the porch rail. Well, when I looked around on the floor, around his chair, it was pretty clear Krusty didn't have a lot of skill at spitting. Well, when he turned his head and looked back to us, there was a string of that tobacco spit and a dripping off of the porch rail, but it come all the way back to his chin. He took his finger and snapped that tobacco spit and just wiped it on his bib overalls like that. Well, I looked at those bib overalls and they were just totally crusted all the way down with dried tobacco juice. And I wondered, you reckon that had something to do with his name? Well, Uncle Russ went ahead and he introduced me. And he took the supplies on in the house. Krusty looked at me and he reached over and got that jar of shine, took another long pull on it. And he looked at me and he set that down and he said, "It's hot out. You should be drinking some water." He pointed his beat up old bucket down there on the floor. He says, "There's good cold spring water in that bucket. I've had me 2 dippers full today." And he picked the dipper off of that, hanging off of the bucket, and he takes it and he hands it kind of gruff. He says, "Here," he says, "take this and get yourself a drink." Well, wasn't supposed to offend him, so I took the dipper and I dipped it into that bucket, and I looked at it and I glanced over at old Krusty had that tobacco slobber kind of hanging out of the corner of his mouth, dripping down off his chin. And I thought, I can't drink out of that dipper. I just can't do it. And so the dipper's all brown and crusty on the edge. I said, well, I'm just going to have to risk offending. Then I got to looking at the dipper. The dipper had a groove right down the handle, like that, okay? And I got a bright idea. So I took that dipper and I just tilted it up like that. And the water came running down that handle into my mouth. Well, Krusty looked at me and he smiled and he says, well, I'll be dead gone. You know, there's been a lot of people come by here and drink out of that dipper. But you're the only one of them that enjoys us as much as I do, just like that.
I want to say thank you to Greg and Scott and Shannon. Where are Greg, Scott, and okay, back there. I don't see Shannon though. Oh, right. Oh, I'm sorry. Our photographer, our videographer, and our sound or tech guy. Okay. Sound tech. Thank you. So we want to say thank you to them for capturing the moment or capturing the evening. I also want to tell you about our next story slam. I talked about our slams being events that are free. The next one that we have is going to be Wednesday, August the 20th, and it will be at Grand Junction Brewing Company, which is in Westfield, and the theme is chaos. Every month there's a different theme, and you can tell us a story, a 5-minute story about whatever the theme is. So this month, it'll be about chaos. And you can make that what it is, whatever chaos means to you. So you can get creative with it. So if you're one that wants to come out and take your hand at being on the mic, think about a 5-minute story about chaos that you've experienced somewhere along the line. And we are ready for our next teller, Colin. Coming from the back. Come on up, Colin.
When I was in high school, so in the 1900s, I worked at the General Cinema Theater in the Greenwood Park Mall. It was a lovely place, a dark, beckoning lobby right off the food court. You walk back, and on the right were the concession stands, and on the left were the 3 doors to the theaters. And from where I stood toward your ticket, I could see orange Julius gleaming in the distance. And I knew that beyond that was Sears and Penn Station, and a little place that would give you teriyaki chicken on a toothpick. And it was a great job. It was fun. There wasn't a lot to it. You pop the popcorn, you pour the drinks, you clean the theaters, you sell the tickets, it's fine. But eventually, and especially if you're a teenager, you kind of want something to start happening. And you want that until the day that it does. The Lion King came to American movie theaters the last weekend of June 1994. Jurassic Park was already playing in Cinema 5, and Pulp Fiction wouldn't come to Cinema 6 until later that year. But we had this big hit, The Lion King, and you always wanted to give yourself extra time to clean that theater. Because Lion King crowd skews young, they tend to drop some popcorn sometimes. You prepare for that. But this happened during the show, early on. We started getting reports of a kid yelling a lot. And this was really early. Like, Scar hadn't yet killed Mufasa and made Simba think it was his fault. Spoiler alert. I go in there, and it is not difficult to discern which kid they're talking about. He has calmed down from the full-blown car alarm wail, but he's still got some pretty good volume. And he's over by the wall. Next to him is his little buddies, and then his utterly clueless, woefully underpaid babysitter. I go down to the row behind him and walk up behind him, and I can see what the problem is. The little guy's got his arm caught in the cup holder. The cup holders of the General Cinema theaters had a little plastic ring that came out with a hole in the bottom. It was the perfect size for a General Cinema drink cup, and just slightly smaller than the circumference of a 6-year-old's arm. Soap. I've got dish soap. It's what we use to clean the butter machines. I'll be right back. I return immediately, holding a little General Cinema courtesy cup of blue, slippery dish soap. I drizzle that down his arm. I gingerly wiggle the arm. I very gently pull up on the arm. No budging at all. Much more noise. So we try ice. Maybe ice will shrink his arm. I'm not a scientist. He hates the ice, and it doesn't work. Now he's wet and soapy, and he's starting to lose hope. Like, he's wondering, like you might be wondering right now, like, what would it be like to live out the rest of your days in Cinema 7 of General Cinema? So someone suggests butter. I go back and I get some butter. I come sloshing that, we pour that on there. That immediately runs off the soap and onto the floor, which I will be cleaning later. The kid's starting to lose it, and I'm like, remember, man, I'm a professional. I work here. Like, you see the logo on my polo shirt? General Cinema. We got this. And that's when I have an amazing idea. This is just flimsy plastic that holds this cup holder. We can just cut it. Snip, snip, kid's out of here. I can go clean Jurassic Park. Where's our saw? Now, General Cinema, Greenwood Park Mall does not have a saw, but Sears does. So now I'm running across the food court, right past Steak Escape and right past the little kiosk that'll sell you earrings or a snug loaf. And I'm in the hardware section. Those guys are super cool. We let them in the theater a lot to see movies. And they understand. They take a fresh, fine-tuned hacksaw right off the shelf and hand it over. I say, I'll be right back. Now say when you walk into a theater full of children in the dark holding a saw, it doesn't bring the energy down at all. But I press that saw against the thing and I stop and I look at the kid and I'm like, man, I'm really sorry in advance if I nick you. And he looks me dead in the eyes and says, remember who you are. I like him. I press, I pull, and it works. That saw goes through that cup holder like the butter that it is now dripping with. Sorry, Sears guys. You can watch Pulp Fiction in 4 months. I finish the cut, no nicks. Kid leaps out of his seat. People are applauding at this point. And the movie is starting to wrap up. The music is crescendoing, and the kid's high-fiving people. He's high-fiving me. He's getting butter and soap on all of us. Babysitter might pass out. And just as we get to the final scene where Rafiki the monkey is climbing Pride Rock to show the entire group Simba and Nala's lion cub, Jackie, the projectionist, who's been watching this whole thing from her window upstairs, turns on the house lights. And people are clapping and standing, and we're bowing, and there was nothing I could do, but...
All right, I want to make you guys aware, our first signature series of the season this year is going to happen on September the 13th at 7 p.m. Who Gets to Call This Home is going to be the name of the show. And it's Susan Susan O'Halloran. And it's about her life in Chicago and in this tackling refugee crisis in a big city and racial politics. That sounds interesting. If you're interested in tickets, go to our website and check it out. And I talked to you guys about volunteer opportunities. If you're someone who has a venue that you think would be a great spot for a storytelling event, to host a storytelling event, stop by and let one of Samantha or myself or someone know, and we'll get in touch and follow up with that. But right now we're going to keep it going, and we are looking for Mike Gilbert. Mike? All right, come on up, Mike.
Lived in Indiana all my life, being in Indiana. I'm a fan of sports, particularly football. Not really a basketball guy, but I'm a football guy. Being from Indiana, the one team I can support, college team, University of Michigan, right? So, late 90s. A little bit closer? There we go. Late 90s. Greatest football quarterback of all time, Tom Brady, coming out. Looks wonderful coming out of University of Michigan. Has a stellar career, goes right to the Patriots, and just starts winning games. Some doofus from Tennessee starts playing in Indianapolis, but you know, watching Tom Brady, watching him win, watching him do it, and just followed by just a procession of Hall of Famers. And you know, Teddy Bruschi, and you know, the future Hall of Famer Gronk, right? They're all going to be there with him someday. Playoffs, 2006-2007 season, comes to Indianapolis. I'm psyched. I'm never going to get to go to Gillette Stadium. I'm never going to get to go and see them play live, but I can see the Patriots in the playoffs. This is going to be the best. I got a buddy of mine, it's a season ticket holder. He calls me, and I was like, you're taking me. You know what? I don't care if your wife wants to go. It's you and me. We're going. He's like, fine. We get downtown, we're walking to, what was it called? Hoosier Dome. We're walking to the Hoosier Dome, and we're getting accosted by people that are just like, hey man, I'll give you, there's guys $200-300 for your tickets, $400-500 for your tickets. And he's turning around and he's like, I got 2 tickets, you give me $500 for these tickets, I can buy tickets for next year, and we can go have a nice dinner somewhere. And I'm like, no man, I'm never gonna get to see these guys, I'm never gonna get to see these guys play. She's like, all right, fine, we go. First quarter, we're sitting there and everybody's yelling at him. And I mean, it's okay, but then the game gets going, and Brady gets going. I'm like, oh, this is great, this is great. The crowd's getting quiet, a couple Patriots fans were yelling, we're screaming. Second quarter gets in there, but they're still winning, they're still scoring points. Halftime, they're by like 30 points. I go, walk right, get the biggest thing of nachos I could. Is what I'm gonna do, sit there and eat those nachos right in everybody's face. Third quarter, starts in. Couple good passes, all right, didn't really get a couple conversions, all right, fine. But the Colts start the comeback, right? I'm like, come on. So I'm sitting there, and my buddy's getting in my face, and he's like, all right, we got a chance. But you got no chance, you're still down like 20 points. Fourth quarter comes, now I'm quiet. Now I'm the one that's like, oh, come on, man. They can't blow this lead, they can't blow this lead. And finally, last play of the drive, I'm watching this like they go all the way down. I'm like, there's one, he's gonna make one pass. All he's gotta do is make one pass, get a first down, and we win. And I'm in my head, I'm like, I'm planning a Super Bowl party, I'm planning, I'm gonna have wings, and I'm getting the wings from the place with the teriyaki and everything. And there's the pass, and I'm like, why are there no Patriots jerseys in that area? And then bam, Colts catches it, crowd goes nuts, they go down and they score. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, this is not good. So now I've got to walk out after giving all these people grief the whole time. And everybody's looking at me. Yeah, I walked out. Didn't really enjoy the game because we lost, but everybody else had a good time. That's what mattered.